Moments away from the start of the women's Holmenkollen 50. It is World Cup number 30 of 34 for the season, and this could be one that either seals the Crystal Globe race with Jess Diggins having a top three finish and Lynn Svan failing, or it could so easily go the other way. 160 points separating the top two in the World Cup standings as they start today. First couple of 100 metres completed, and Mike, you pointed out the profile. The first 3 kilometres is very, very stiff, so I think the pace initially would be slow up until that first bonus point.
I think so. The last thing you want really is a very aggressive start. Of course, the big players will want to comfortably find their space in the field, and the tracks are pretty wide, aren't they, heading out of this first couple of kilometres up to the high point.
So no one struggling too much with the pace at the moment as they work their way out of the stadium and then head up towards Frogner-Seteren. This race, of course, Mike, when in previous years for the men certainly was 2 25-kilometre loops, which had a certain attraction to it, and the fans, I think, quite enjoyed that. But nowadays with shorter loops, at least they get to see the athletes more often.
Yes, that original 2 times 25, it was to find the character in the athlete, to test them on their own out in the forest, and it did work. It was a very lonely race out there. Of course, spectators started coming alongside, and that was from 1982, wasn't it, until 2010, when it shifted to the shorter tracks and mass starts.
No, I didn't get to see the base of anyone's skis prior to the start of the race, but I'm suspecting there's a fair amount of clister out there, and clister can mean trouble. Victoria Karl wearing 2, looking fairly comfortable. That's Karlsson leading the left-hand column, and Karlsson versus Johaug back in 21, Mike. I think that was probably the race of the decade, wasn't it? In fact, it was 2020. It was 2020 when she closed that gap so dramatically.
It was a fantastic race. It was almost unbelievable. I think they were 1 minute. Of course, Ebba Andersson assisted that pullback. I think they were left behind by 1 minute and 2 seconds, and then fought back over the last 15 kilometres. It was a fabulous race.
Yeah, that was all to do with skis, and Johaug selecting or deciding not to change ski, but it was a bad mistake.
I think so, and with the city, it's not often we've got a capital city just down the bottom of the hill. Yes, this hill is at 300 metres, but you get an awful lot of the dirt from the city coming up here. The base of your skis are always very dirty when you race in Holmenkollen.
You can't call Oslo a dirty city.
When you sit at the top of any city, you've got this, it's a dark little spread across. When you put your first wax on to clean the base, you see this very dark colour coming off your skis from the pollution. That's probably changed now with all the electric cars in Norway.
Yes.
State sponsored.
My goodness, what a successful program that was, but I hear there are problems now, and the insurance has gone so high that no one can afford to run them. I've just got my spies in the stadium, Mike, who got to have a look at some of the skis. They've got ice clister on the base layer and then universal clister on top of that, and reckoning that for the second pair of skis they'll probably wax a little bit heavier because there's quite a lot of sugar snow around.
Very interesting, and I think it was clearly a clister day in these wet but occasionally icy track conditions. Hey, the pace is strong, Patrick. All the big players wanting to chase the bonus points. You're first through that marker at 3.1 Ks, 15 points, and that really is keeping the pace quite firm right now.
Yeah, last year they went through the 3 kilometre stage in 9 minutes. So 3 minutes per kilometre, but as you can see from the profile of the course, it is a really tough start to the race. Ebba Andersson, yeah, she looks eager. She's gone out hard. We need to keep an eye on Lynn Svan, That's Karlsson, the second of the Swedish suits. I think Linn Svan back in around 12 or 13 at the moment.
I felt that Linn Svan looked so tired last weekend. She's doing all the sprints, all the distance races, well, making her way to the final in all the sprints, which is wearing on a regular basis. But for me, she looked like she was beginning to really tire. And then she became fourth, didn't she, in the sprint in Lahti last weekend?
Yeah. Well, there's some very, very good races in Lahti. I do love that stadium with the technical descent that always produces a little bit of drama.
It does every single year.
Yeah, Skistad looked very powerful in the sprint. And of course, a fantastic win for Krista Palmer-Koski. How about that? First victory for 6 years, and she gets it on home snow. But she put all her eggs in the Lahti basket, Mike, by missing out on the US tour.
She did, and the form hadn't been good before that. She wanted success at home, and brilliant that she did it. She was so emotional after that race, and she desperately wanted a win. And I think that sets Palmer-Koski up to be, for me, the real challenger today, maybe the surprise winner today.
Yeah, that would be a big surprise. Remember, it was 20k in Lahti, so 2.5 times the distance today, and only 6 minutes on the clock. There's Niskanen over on the far side. Now Niskanen, plenty of World Cup wins, Mike, but they've all come over 10k in the classic style, except for one, and huge question mark over how she will cope with the 50k distance.
Yes, Kerttu Niskanen, likewise with Palmer-Koski, there's a couple of Heidi Weng, they've been around for so long, and many, many years, 10, in fact Heidi Weng, 13 years ago, the first time she took part in the 30 kilometre, which was the distance race then.
So all the big names out front. Linn Svan just starting to make a move nearest the camera. She goes past Rosie Brennan there wearing 4. 12 is Delphine Claudel of France. Further back down the order, Kiloinen there wearing 19. 35, that's Mork of Norway, and some of the lesser known Norwegians at the back of the field at the moment. Sonja Schmidt of Canada, who we interviewed just before the race, said she was going to conserve. She's sitting at the back at the moment. And I wonder how she's feeling about the distance. Now, sorry, Mike, you go.
Yeah, just thinking, Sonja Schmidt, remember that fabulous win that she had at the Under-23 World Championships over 1.4 kilometres. She's never done a 50, so I think she's right to be pacing it sensibly at the moment, but this will be a really tough journey for Sonja Schmidt.
Sweden causing a little bit of a roadblock at the moment. Svan looking pretty relaxed, still the pace. I think they're well within themselves. I haven't seen Heidi Weng as yet. Is it going to be a day for her? That would be a massively popular victory if she could pull it off.
It really would. Hey, I do like the fact that there's the 3 Swedish athletes. I'm not saying they're road blocking, but now Niskanen's come alongside. They're really trying to make sure they are in the right position to get these bonus points.
Yeah. Are they trying to keep, I wonder whether there's a bit of a Swedish game plan, keep Diggins out of the top 3 and give Svan a chance to pick up the 15 points and close. But over a 50k, Mike, going for sprint bonus points is a very, very dangerous tactic. And at the moment, the Swedes are all in there. It's the plan is working pretty well.
It is. Jessie Diggins, Patrick, I noticed she had to spread the skis wide. She was the only athlete in the top 10 to spread the skis wide, so maybe there's a grip issue with her skis. I hope not.
Well, that was Ebba Andersson stepping aside to allow Jess Diggins to come through. I'm absolutely amazed that happened, and Diggins is going all out to get the bonus points here. It's going to be close between Svan. I think Diggins might just have got it. My goodness, Mike. Svan actually given 15 points as well, so nothing gained, nothing lost. I'm absolutely amazed that Anderson stepped aside.
Jess Diggins must have been shouting, screaming track. There's no way that Anderson would give way easily like that with the bonus points coming up. Really surprised to see that.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised to see Jess Diggins working so hard at 3 kilometres with another 47 to go. It takes us back to the days of Petter Northug when he had so many battles on the Tour de Ski trying to sweep up all the bonuses, but then just didn't have anything left when it came to the finish.
You know, for me, Petter Northug ticked all the boxes, passed all of the tests when he was on the start line of the 50 kilometre here for the World Championships, and of course won the title, the World Champion, at home on this very prestigious track. That was a very special day. I thought the pace, Patrick, would really back off after the bonus points, but absolutely not. Full pace.
Well, those bonus sprints tend to split the field up fairly effectively, and I think by the time we finish the first loop, Mike, will be down to sort of maybe 10 realistic challengers for the title, maybe 15 at the outside. I don't think Karlsson's going to hang around. She's got the lead at the moment. Stadlober just behind her. And this would be, if Stadlober is ever going to get a win, this would be the one.
I think so, and she certainly looked good last weekend. She's looked good actually throughout the season. Where's Jessie Diggins now? I think she might be 10th or 11th place. This pace is still strong. There's Jessie Diggins.
Brennan just ahead. We haven't mentioned Katarina Hennig yet. Do you see her as a potential winner?
I don't. Just looking at her most recent form, I thought she would perform well last weekend. Victoria Karl did by finishing second, under 2 seconds behind, of course, Paul Makowski's time. But I thought that Hennig looked a little tired, a little bit out of shape.
Yeah, 18th in Lahti, didn't do the sprint, so that might have allowed her to recover a little. One of the faster downhill sections, and Diggins looks to be trying to recover from that early dash for the sprint points. And this is where we get. Yeah, I was just going to say this is a really interesting section of the course, Mike. I know it's all downhill, but it's a long downhill, and those with bad skis are going to lose a significant amount of ground.
Oh, and that's so depressing, isn't it? It feels to me like Jessie Diggins' skis are running quite well. Sophie Lauchley at nearly 60 kilometres an hour, so that would indicate the American skis are pretty good.
Yeah, Lauchley, what a fantastic win she had on the final day of the Tour de Ski.
Yes, and the American dream is growing stronger and stronger, men and women in cross country. Of course, with Gus Schumacher taking that surprise 10-kilometre freestyle, that was sensational over in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I mean, how much do you put down to his efforts? And there's no doubt that he was fully focused on that day. And how much do you put down to the fact that he got a reasonably early start on tracks that definitely deteriorated?
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from his brilliant performance, but I think we said it at the time that it was a slight advantage, an advantage without a doubt, to start in the earlier part of that race. The big guns, the big names started much later, so he had one good lap ahead of the others on a 3-lap race.
Well, we're down to around 20 as they come back down towards the stadium, little loop of the stadium before they head out, and then they'll come around Gratis-Bakken and back into the stadium to complete the first lap.
Heidi Weng standing tall there, bib number 6. She really hasn't got involved in any of the big tension at the front. I like the way she's pacing it, vastly experienced, so it would be lovely to see Heidi Weng back on the podium.
Yeah, Hennig looking reasonably fresh at the moment, tucked in behind Karlsson. Karlsson won't want to do too much of the leading. It's not as quick as freestyle, but still the leader does that fraction more work than everyone else. And the ideal position, second or third. Theresa Stadlober on the right-hand column, wearing number 9. Behind her is Ebba Andersson, And number 7 is Kerttu Niskanen of Finland. Matintalu wearing 18. Palmakoski wearing 16. Still haven't picked her out.
Yes, Palmer, I saw her earlier, Palmakoski. I thought we might see her up at the sharp end.
So another section of climbing coming up, and the very fact that they're strung out in a long line, an indication that Karlsson is keeping a fairly honest pace here in the early stages of the 50k. They've gone through 5, so a tenth of the distance completed, and that took 14 minutes 39 seconds. Well, with the pace they've gone so far, Mike, we're looking at 2.5 hours.
That's what I was thinking, and looking at when the pace was so intense at 12 minutes, and I thought they've got over 2 hours still to go, and without a doubt, at the end, coming towards the end of the season, it's easy to predict. So many of these athletes will really be hitting the proverbial wall at some point. Maybe some won't, some will be. Palmakoski, maybe she's had much less World Cup racing than the rest. Maybe some of those athletes that have missed a good number of races will feel this is their day.
Yeah. Now, we're used to seeing really crisp, high-quality tracks on the World Cup circuit, and we're used to seeing better tracks here than anywhere else on the planet. But they delayed the making of the tracks till very late, Mike, partly because the weather conditions have been so difficult over the last 7 days. Lots of warm sunshine yesterday, and when you make the tracks late, they do tend to break up a whole lot quicker.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I always respect the decision that the track cutters here in Oslo, they know the snow, they know the best how to keep the tracks as firm as they can, and it's always a challenge, isn't it, to try and keep perfect tracks. It's impossible, in fact, in these warm conditions.
Jess Diggins at 4 seconds. Lynn Svan a couple of seconds behind her. They're the 2 main competitors for the overall title this year. Now, Mike, you mentioned at the start that this is the hardest profile of any course on the World Cup circuit. It is constantly up or down. There's very little flat. And what you get with the up and down is the concertina effect that we see in the Loppet races. It is so much less tiring to be in the top 5 than it is to be down in 15, 16.
Oh, it is, and it's really frustrating, as you say, when you have to kind of queue up at the bottom of the hill. You break your rhythm, and you get really frustrated. So it's definitely a more efficient path if you're in the top 3, the top 5. And Karlsson, it's just, for me, looking so easy at the front, so comfortable.
Yeah, slightly surprised to see Laukley drop back a bit. I was hoping for a big surprise from her today, but were it freestyle, I think that would be a possibility. But as a classic race over the 50 kilometres, it's one for the specialists, and Karlsson certainly falls into that bracket. Hennig falls into that bracket for me, although as Mike said, a question mark over her freshness after a long hard season for her. Victoria Karl there wearing 2, certainly looking good. She's a strong athlete, Karl, isn't she?
Oh, she is, and I try to get the real figuring out how come she's improved so much after 11 years on the circuit. And she said she was just spending a lot of more time in the gym, absolutely trying to build her stance and her balance, as all cross-country skiers do. But she concentrated a little more on all the smaller but important aspects in terms of her weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mike, there are going to be any tracks left on the uphill sections at all come the end of this race. And you can see that with the breaking up of the snow, some of the athletes just struggling. There's not a whole lot of slipping going on, but they're having to compress the ski far harder than normal. The one athlete that looks more relaxed than anyone else as you pointed out, Mike, is Frida Karlsson up front. And I think she's probably deciding to lead because she can ski in such a smooth fashion. She can use her own tempo. She hasn't got to worry about anyone else getting in the way of her style. As we see number 12, that's Delphine Claudel going a long way wide.
The slight concern, because later in the race there'll be athletes coming towards us on the right side, and you'll have athletes coming down that very, very fast section. I fell there once with my rifle on further back at 55 kilometers an hour. It's a big hit when you land.
Yeah,
and we may well see some falls today.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Heidi Weng coming down that section, but instead of doing a snowplow, she put the baskets of the poles in the snow, pressed them down as a sort of decelerant, rather than risk losing some of the clister on the bottom of the ski. So some smart skiing there from Heidi Weng, unless, of course, the basket comes off.
or you snap the pole. But yeah, the last thing you want is to edge the skis, wear off the precious clister, which gives you all of the grip up these steep climbs.
Full focus on the athletes' faces already. Karlsson, Hennig, Sundling, Andersson, Lundgren, Stadlober, Slin, Niskanen in the top 8. Victoria Karl just outside, going through that last 7.6 barrier, but nothing separating the top positions at the moment. And we have got, within 10 seconds, we've got 17 athletes. And then there's a little bit of a gap back. Kaloinen and Bergan and Yanatova and Sophia Laukley of USA. They're some 7 or 8 seconds off that leading group.
I keep thinking on this first 8.2 kilometers, I keep thinking the pace is going to back off. Maybe it is now a little, but it's been quite a firm first part of this course. Of course, there's a 5 kilometer, then they come through the stadium, and then this very tough 3.2 at the end of it. It's a hilly, difficult section of the course.
Yeah, so when they come through past the finish line, that will be 8.3 kilometres completed. How many of them, Mike, are thinking, oh my goodness, I've got another 5 of those to do?
You know, it has to go through your mind. Yeah, I suppose you have to previously plan your race very well in your mind, and they'll think, okay, I need to be comfortable on the first lap, and then see how I feel in the placement within the group, and just work the strategies according to how the race is panning out.
Paul McCoskey starting to make herself known. She's wearing 16 up in that. She's in the second row at the moment, just tucking in behind Stadlober. A lot of track changing. Everyone looking for the best conditions. Everyone here wanting a drink. Anyone going to miss out? Victoria Karl, not interested so far.
Interesting. It's awkward. The fact that at the back of the shooting range, so many of the coaches opting to give that drink stop makes it a little tricky.
Yeah. How many times, Mike, have you taken a drink and your ski pole has hit the snow?
Cut your lip.
Well, if you get away with a cut lip, I think you're lucky. Tooth removal is.
It can be painful. Yeah, It has certainly happened once to me. Not the tooth, but the pain.
So Palmakoski unwillingly, I think, out front. Her teammate Niskanen tucked in behind her. Jonas Sundling is there wearing 3, in third position, I meant, wearing 13. And Diggins just 4.6 seconds back. We saw Diggins hide in the pack in the Davos 20k. Mike, do you think she's using a similar tactic here?
Possibly. Yeah, Davos was a strange one, wasn't it? She did take quite a bad fall early on, so she was winded, and in fact she was carried that little injury for 5-6 weeks after that fall. So yes, I think she's trying. She's gone wide. You can see her there on the left side. You can spot her technique a long way out. I think she's okay. I think at 25 minutes in, well, 24 minutes in, I think Jess Diggins will be feeling quite comfortable.
Well, the tricky point is, when do you change your skis? The fresh skis are obviously cleaner. The wax probably more appropriate for the temperature at the time of day. But it's such a hard question, isn't it, Mike? Would you go at exactly halfway, which would sort of seem to be the common sense thing to do, or would you save some skis for the last 15k?
do you know, instinct, I feel the last 15, when you need it most, you're going to pick these very fast or much faster skis up, and psychologically as well as everything else, you'll feel that you've got power in the latter stages of the race. We often see that works well, don't we?
Yeah, you want a fast pair for the last lap, certainly. And are we going to see someone trying to make a breakaway? It's Victoria Karl setting the pace at the moment. Lynn Svan got herself back towards the front. Frida Karlsson, who led most of that first 8k, now just settled in the back of the pack. Palmakoski getting a bit frustrated. She turns around to give the athlete behind her a bit of a ticking off and finds out it's her teammate Niskanen.
Oh dear. Yeah. And, you know, often you get so frustrated, don't you, in these tight races, tight packed.
Inatova of the Czech Republic now at the back of the group. Last time we saw it was a group of 17. And Inatova pushing that number up to 20, so we have 20 athletes in this leading group. Not a massive gap. We could see a few changes over this next loop, but it all depends when someone decides to push the pace, test everyone else, and Karl certainly upping the tempo. Diggins keeping a careful eye on proceedings. Number 5 going through. Karlsson has dropped back into around 15th place. Rosie Brennan, Mike, never for me seems to have that perfect weight transfer. It looks as though she shares the weight between the two skis so often.
It's quite amazing, and you know, we saw her great start to the season up in Ruka, finishing second in the 10 kilometre. Yes, I think I mean, she said it's like running. You can identify an athlete by the technique they're running in, and that's the same with skiing. But yes, I agree, Brennan looks a little tense a lot of the time. And unlike Karlsson, when we see Karlsson again, there she is, bib 5, so easy, so flowing, no tension. And when you're tense over a 2-hour 20 period, you're burning a lot more energy, unnecessary energy. Yeah,
and Diggins on the far side doesn't look to have the glide that Karlsson and Ebba Andersson and Jonas Sundling there wearing 13 have at the moment. Is that a technique thing, or is it a ski prep situation?
I think last weekend it was a ski prep situation. I feel that Jessie Diggins much more easy on her skis today, and she's moving herself up to the front again, ready for this bonus points at 3.1 kilometres out from the stadium.
Yeah, if she can pick up lots of points. And Lynn Svan nowhere to be seen in this leading group. Is she hiding? There she is, just moving up. She's keeping an eye, and this is an indication that Lynn Svan is very serious about having a crack at the overall World Cup. Karlsson needs to do her a favour and jump out of the way just to enable Svan to come through and snatch up a few points. Diggins well positioned. The other scenario, Mike, is that the Swedes other than Lynn Svan, challenge Diggins and push Diggins really hard on the sprint and force her to exert energy early on in this race, which may result in her having nothing left to give on the last lap.
Yeah, maybe, you know, the last night and throughout the last 3-4 days, the coaches will have looked at so many scenarios. What's best for my athletes? How can we close that massive gap which Jessie Diggins has? They will have known full well that Jessie Diggins will be chasing these, I was going to say, easy 15 points, the sprint points. She's just got trapped in now by Kerttu Niskanen. Jessie will want to break free, maybe go wide, left side as we're looking. It's difficult to get through, isn't it? Lynn Svan still trapped in behind Karlsson on the right side.
Yeah, bit of an effort coming in from Stadlober on the left of your screen at the moment, wearing 9. Svan still trapped behind Karlsson, and Diggins tucked in behind Niskanen, who seems to be hungry for points as well. Number 6, Heidi Weng. First time we really had a good look at her. Skiing nicely. Her skis look to be going very well indeed.
And you mentioned Heidi Weng. I think she's just taking it within herself. She's not getting caught up in these big pace changes as we have at the front now, chasing the points. I think she just wants a podium today. It's not an easy task, but she's pacing it well.
Yeah.
Jessie's skis are good. Look at the pace she has into this corner. Lynn Svan still a little trapped, bib 8 there. She's not easily going to get past Karlsson.
Yeah, and it's going to take a major effort unless Karlsson obliges and steps to the side. There's a beautiful view, the Kontiki in that building down there, and the Fram. Fantastic day out in Oslo when the snow conditions aren't perfect. So the bonus points at 11.3. They've got 800 metres to go. And Victoria Karl in pole position at the moment. Diggins getting herself, I don't quite know how she did it, but she got in front of Niskanen, which puts her in a good position. And a little bit of a gap opening up to Heidi Weng. Will she be concerned? I think Heidi Weng has got enough experience of these sort of races to know that those up the front battling it out for bonus points are really going to struggle when it comes to 35k, let alone 50.
Yes, she's wise. She's been here many years since her first outing. She was only 17, Heidi Weng, when the Norwegians selected her to take part in the 50 kilometre. I think she was 45th on that first occasion. Jessie Diggins, she's well and truly into a good flow there at the front, trying to command everybody behind her.
Palmakoski not interested in the points, nor is Rosie Brennan, number 20, going through Foysnes of Norway, just ahead of Anne Kiloinen of Finland. And this particular sprint is really going to spread the field out. Be interesting to see if the pace drops off dramatically as they come up towards Frognerseter. Traditionally, this is where so many of the fans come. There are wigwams and teepees everywhere, with barbecues burning outside. Quite difficult for the athletes to focus, and just look how those tracks are broken up. Diggins stomping away up the climb, level with Karl at the moment. The bonus points just over the top of this climb. Lynn Svan is still there, wearing 8 on the left-hand side, but somehow has to find a way past Victoria Karl. And Frida Karlsson is in the running for the points as well. Remember, Diggins and Svan both being up 15 points on the first sprint. Are we going to see the same again? 15 for first, 12 for second, and Diggins goes hard.
The only problem she has is there's Lynn Svan on her case, trying to pass her again on the line, or towards the line.
It just seems crazy, Mike. It just seems crazy. But that is why the points are there, to spice up the race, to tempt some of the athletes to go hard. And this is why I said earlier on, Mike, I'm a big fan of the 50k, because so many things can happen, and 50k is all about pacing, far more so than the 30. And even when we go back to the days of Bjorn Dali, he really struggled with the last 10 of a 50.
Yeah, no, it's a real pace changer. Jessie Diggins there from 3 kilometres out started her attack. Well, she's managed actually to pick up 24 points, but Svan has managed to take 30. Now that's quite significant.
It certainly is. So 6-point change. That takes the lead down to about 156 for Jess Diggins. Diggins, of course, has won the overall before. Svan hasn't. And certainly at the start of the season, Mike, you would have put Diggins in the top 3 in terms of favourites to win the overall this year, but I don't think you would have put Svan there.
I don't think so. Still coming back, wasn't she, from that terrible shoulder injury when she started this season, but everything is back to normal. In fact, better than we've seen in the great Lynn Svan in the past before the injury, and which caused that loss of the Olympic Games and that whole season of the Olympics 2022. I thought Lynn Svan and Jessie were absolutely exhausted. They were. It was a full-on sprint. up to the bonus points. So they've really backed off now.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity for someone like Karlsson, Niskanen, Hennig to really start pushing and hurt those who hurt them on the approach to the bonus points. And Niskanen looking very fresh as she leads the way round the top corner. Two Germans in the top four at the moment. Number 8, Lynn Svan, just looking over her shoulder to see what's happened to Jess Diggins. And again, the ski speed is going to be key on the way down the hill. Now, there's an athlete whose bib you can't see. It's generally Jess Diggins because she gets so much lower than everyone else on the downhill.
Oh, she loves these downhills. And I suppose, when you look at the profile, yes, it's hard work up to 3.55 kilometres, but you do get a huge amount of breathing recoveries coming down this section. It's one of the longest tucks, descents on the World Cup Tour.
So over 12 kilometres completed. We still have a long, long way to go here in Oslo. 38k. Well, from 12 athletes, Mike in the leading group, we are down to from 20, we're down to 12. Rosie Brennan has found herself 5 or 6 seconds adrift. And who else is in the group behind? Lotte Udnesveng is there, the last year's overall World Cup winner. Been not Lotte, Tuula Udnesveng as well. It's been a sort of tricky season for the Vengs overall.
Yes, it has. Tiril Udnes, long time before she made it back into the World Cup racing with setbacks and little niggles, little injuries. But and she hasn't quite found her best form yet.
Yeah, just looking at Diggins' technique on that last uphill section, Mike, starting to see a little more upper body movement. Still looks as though she's trying to recover from that sprint effort.
Yes, she's very much at the back of this, not interested at the moment in working her way back up, but it's going to be expensive to close the gap. Jessie's just tucking low there.
Conditions today, Swedes, Norwegians, Finnish or Norwegian. Slin in the leading group, a lot of athletes from Sweden, and now soon down to the stadium.
Astrid Slind leading at the moment. Now, there's a question over whether Schlind has gone a bit lighter on wax than many others. She's an incredibly good double polar, but as we mentioned, there's not a lot of double poling to be done on this track. It's either up or down. Well, welcome back to Holmenkollen. We are coming up towards the end of the second of 6 laps in the women's 50 kilometre, and all sorts of changes every time we go around. Jonas Sundling leading at the moment. Schlind of Norway wearing 11 is there as well. 7 is Kertu Niskanen, and Hennig and Karl of Germany wearing 10 and 2 respectively. And Ebba Andersson, we haven't talked much about her, Mike. 26, comes from PTO up the north of Sweden on the Finnish border. Hasn't had a win since Trondheim. Got a win in the skiathlon in Trondheim, but it's been a lean period for her.
It has, and Lynn Svan has been one of those athletes who have had health setbacks. It's been so frustrating for her, but when she's there at the races on form, she's practically unbeatable. I don't feel that she's on her best form at the moment, so this could be a struggle. She'll certainly think, or be thinking, that she can still achieve a podium, a 3rd place maybe. Jonas Sundling, yeah, she's amazing, isn't she? She, an out-and-out sprinter, but she now begins to like, and historically, occasionally, has beginning to like distance racing.
Yeah, but I think your Svans and your Sundlings in particular are starting to mirror the career of Marit Bjørgen, who started as the queen of the sprints, and it wasn't long before she was dominating the distance races as well. Her sprinting did suffer a little bit, but that was what was her real strength, was that she was good at both.
Yes, and definitely Lynn Svan is adapting. Yes, we saw that 3 years ago when she had those 6 victories, distance and sprinting. But now she's a much stronger athlete, Lynn Svan. Lynn Svan, bib 8, she's after the sprint, I think she's struggling, but so is Jessie Diggins, coming back towards Svan now. Jessie realising that she has to pick the pace up to keep an eye on this lead group.
Yeah, it's going to be an epic battle between those two. If you were to put money on one of them surviving until the 50k mark, and when I say surviving, I mean still skiing strongly at 50k, I think Diggins would be your bet, wouldn't she, over Svan?
It's strange, isn't it? It's like a heavyweight boxing match. It's just punch for punch over every kilometre is going to be more and more painful. It's a tough one to call, actually. Lynn Svan is a tough character, but yeah, I think Jessie, when it comes to the absolute true grit, which you really need today, Jessie will dig into that place, that place of pain, maybe a little more than most.
Well, that's the 14.2 completed, and just doing a double check on that lead group, still at 12, Diggins at the back of that at 7.2, Heidi Weng 5 seconds off the group, but if you're a Heidi Weng fan, I wouldn't be too concerned. She's got some good company. Rosie Brennan is in the group with her, and I think we could see those two playing a very, very smart race today. They're both hugely experienced.
And the strange thing, you know, we're talking about, I suppose, what's going to happen, but there's so much going to happen. We're only 14 kilometres into a 50. The pace has been quite brutal to this point, so it's going to be survival for so many of these athletes chasing the podium.
Yeah, I don't know what your opinion of the bonus sprints is, Mike, but one benefit is it means that this race started from the gun. So, you know, I think there were a lot of people who were worried that the first 30k was just going to be a cruise, and then the race would start at 30, but that certainly hasn't been the case.
It hasn't, and you know, you mentioned this is the second 50 kilometre for women, which it is, but it's the first 50 kilometre in classic style for women. Yeah, last year it was fast conditions, and I was surprised how quick the race went by. Today it's more of a grind in these warm conditions with clister under your base of your skis. It's more of a grind today. It's a tough race.
Yeah, and the first lap was completed in just over 14 minutes. Be interesting to see where we stand when we've completed 3.
Just thinking, Patrick, coming up soon we're going to see the athletes so fast that a number of the athletes crossed over the centre bollards. I do see that some of the athletes got a verbal warning for not staying to it was in this section coming up, not staying to the marked course. It was almost impossible to stay to the marked course carrying the speed and the icy conditions down this descent.
Yeah, but also due to the fact that you've got other athletes in front of you, and you know, it's a narrow section of the course. Your option is either to go right up the backside of the athlete in front or to step wide, but provided they stay within a couple of meters of the edge of the track, they are okay. But you could see they were all making a bit more effort there. I think the word has got out that the jury are watching carefully.
Yep, Parmakoski got the warning, so did Lotte Udnes Weng, so did Hennig. So yeah, everybody, less traffic this time so you can manage your race line better.
Yeah, after 15k, Mike, what was it, 42.29, so we're still pretty much on schedule for a 2.5-hour race, which is, just over 15 minutes longer. It was 2:13.30 last year in freestyle, and that would hold well, about a 15% difference in speed between the freestyle and the classic races.
Yeah, interesting. And I think the legs, I was going to say your muscles feel more spent when it comes to classic, but of course skating has a different pain through the legs, doesn't it? This is more technical today, I think, in terms of the ability to remain efficient for the whole 2.5 hours.
There's Heidi Weng wearing 6. Heidi Weng's career that seems to have gone on for ever and ever. Same as was Heidi Weng in her 15th World Cup season, Niskanen's 16th World Cup season. Yeah, amazing. And they're veterans of this. Well, it used to be 30 kilometre, of course, until last year. They're veterans of the old 30 kilometre here. I felt the 30 kilometre was a good test. This is an exceptional test. At 50. I certainly take your point about it sort of taking quite a few nationalities out of the race, but it takes a while for a tradition to build, and there aren't many men who would pull out of the Holmenkollen 50 because it was too far. It's just that opportunity to win the blue ribbon event, and there's discussion about not having the Holmenkollen 50 on when major championships are on, because generally it means that you have a major 50 and 1 week, or at the very most 2 weeks later, you have another 50, and that does result in a much smaller field. Yes, I saw that discussion, and I understand that. And Bibi Levin, who's now in second place, Astrid Eurus-Lind, remember after the 50 kilometre in Planica, she got a private jet up to the start of the Vasaloppet. She came 5th there, and then 6 days later, she came 2nd here, just tiny margin off the first position. Yeah, but Slind is a distance racer. Doesn't mean it takes anything less out of you, but I think she's just used to it. Yeah. Now, yes, she is. Wondering, are we going to see anyone change skis early on? It would be an early change. We've got another bonus point at 19.6, so maybe they're focused on that. Niskanen certainly doesn't look as though she is going to change. Probably next time round we'll see a lot turning to the right and changing their skis. Nobody really having big issues there with grip stroke glide. I was trying to think of a race where changing the ski determined the outcome, and my mind immediately went to Pyeongchang and the men's 50. Absolutely. Niskanen, he had to chase it down by some 24 seconds. He was behind Bolshinov. Going into the last couple of laps. Yeah, but there's absolutely no doubt they went through the end of the lap together, and Niskanen led Bolshinov to believe that he wasn't changing, and then he nipped to the left at the very last moment as he went through the box, changed the skis, and then closed down that 20 seconds without any trouble at all. Yeah, clever. And I think Niskanen tomorrow. Of course, the two Niskanens are here, his sister racing today, but Leva Niskanen tomorrow, I think he'll be the big name to watch. And Klæbo last weekend was asked how is he looking forward to the 50 kilometre. He said, well, just have to manage my energy, but certainly Niskanen will be my main rival. Yeah, the men's 50k tomorrow, incidentally, starting at the same time. The battle for the overall in the men's isn't quite as exciting as it is in the women's. Amundsen, the World Cup leader, hasn't shown any sign of cracking quite yet, Mike. He's not winning, and he's seldom on the podium, but he's nearly always top 6 or 7. Yeah, he's having a great, his bad day is 14th position this season, so he's well and truly within that, so he's safe. And of course, Amundsen's twin sister is racing today. I haven't seen her much of her. She's bib number 29, Hedda Isberg Amundsen. Just try and find where she is on the track. Yeah, she's 2 minutes 27th off the pace. Yeah, 27th, 2 minutes down, which is why we haven't seen her. And Jess Diggins and Lynn Svan, they've paid a price, 16.6, so they got just under 3k before, they got exactly 3k to the next of the bonus sprints, and it would be interesting to see whether they say enough is enough. If it was me, I would certainly be in that camp. This is Margrethe Bergan, another of the youngsters in the Norwegian team, doing well in the under-23 standings.
Bergan, I did wonder, is she pacing it well? But she's the kind of mindset of athlete who, if she can be at the front, she will. And in fact, last year she was up with the top 6 athletes with 1 kilometre to go. Bergan had a fabulous day last year, but by huge surprise, nobody expected that to happen. I think she finished 6th in the end.
Yeah, she was only 6 seconds off the winner.
This is amazing.
It's a fantastic duel, isn't it?
Yeah,
going on, a race within a race. And of course it is all to do with the overall World Cup rankings. And I think Svan, before they went to America, would have said, okay, it's all about winning the sprint standings. But suddenly she has pulled back dramatically in Lahti. And should things go her way today, if she can get the gap to around 100 points, with more classic races coming up than freestyle, and of course a couple of classic sprints, it is a possibility that she could win the overall.
It really is, with loaded in terms of classic. They're both coming back into this league group. I thought they might just say, okay, let's just play this game against ourselves. But Jessie Diggins again wants some of these precious points.
Ebba Andersson, you can see the work rate. Weng and Brennan split for the first time today as they come back up the hill towards Frognerseteren. Little cafe at the top. I think they certainly earn the right to stop and have a hot chocolate there. Some of the best hot chocolate in Oslo, guaranteed.
It feels that way when you've got so many kilometres in your legs, doesn't it? Well, a number of the athletes slipping now. Definitely Ebba Andersson slipping quite badly there. She'll need a ski change. I'm quite sure she'll have a pit stop next time in.
If she's still in contention. Yeah, that will be a concern. But the Swedish team will have spotted what is going on. And I think they might start getting the skis ready. In fact, having said that, the skis are already in place, aren't they, Mike?
They are.
Already waxed. They've had to guess what's going to happen. Now, what is in that mug?
I was wondering. I was trying to see what that can was in front of him. But you get all the smells, don't you? When you're racing around these tracks, you get the wood fire smell, you get the sausages, you get some beautiful smells on the way. And when you get up towards 50k, your body is so in need of food. You're desperate. I remember thinking of only chicken and chips racing the last 10k's here in the 50. I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I was starving. Very unprofessional.
Heidi Weng is still there. Rosie Brennan closing the gap on the Norwegian just a little bit. Bergan and number 32 Lundgren of Sweden also having a little bit of a battle out there. Now, what sort of future is Bergan going to have? Not every under-23 World Cup winner goes on to win the overall by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a good start to her career. Here we go again, Mike, and they are building up, and once again they've started the increase in speed quite early.
It's a huge output of effort, of energy now for Jessie Diggins and Lynn Svan, and you just get the feeling they want to be further up the track to get some more bonus points. But is it worth the effort to break through that group ahead of you? You're going to have to go wide, and that's a lot more extra energy.
Yeah, and if they both stay where they are, neither of them are going to get any points, so they might both just settle for that.
It feels that they might. Well, there goes Lynn Svan. Is she faking tired just to make Jessie Diggins back off? Who knows?
Well, if it's a change in pace from Lynn Svan, it's a very subtle one, but whatever she has done, Jess Diggins has gone with her. Those two matching each other stride for stride. 18.8, so they've got another 800 metres, most of which is climbing, up to those bonus points at Frognersetran. And Heidi Weng losing ground as the pace in that lead group picks up yet again. But provided she stays within 30, possibly 40 seconds, I think we could see Heidi Weng starting to make a move in the closing stages. And Rosie Brennan possibly will go with her.
And the strange thing is, we're not even halfway yet. In fact, we've got a long way to go. 6 kilometres until halfway. And I think that Brennan and Heidi Weng are potentially playing the clever race, not getting excited by these sprints, keeping a level pace throughout. And at the end of the day, that will pay off.
Yeah, Diggins and Svan's the ones we've been highlighting, but who else do you think has been going all out to increase their bonus tally? Niskanen's been in there a couple of times. Victoria Karl of Germany has been tempted.
Yes, Karlsson has tried, but not gone all guns blazing. Maybe she will this time. I think this is a bad sign though, Patrick, for Jessie Diggins and Lynn Svan, who are the top 2 athletes in the World Cup ranking, although Jessie Diggins trying so hard now to come back towards the front.
Yeah, Svan is going to match her whatever she tries.
Yes.
And I think the 2 Swedes, Karlsson and Andersson, are likely to get max points. Just eases off for the last 100 metres or so. But I think there's too much traffic ahead of Diggins and Svan for them to make a real impression on this sprint. Diggins there, you can see with the yellow bib, working hard, but she's not going to reach the front this time round. Stadlober still in there for Austria. She's done really well. The Germans will be delighted that Henning and Karl are still in touch, and maximum points this time are going to bib number 5. That's Frida Karlsson picks up 15, Niskanen another 12, Andersson 10, and by the end of this race there are going to be a mass of bonus points, and Diggins getting 1, so a 1 point gain over Lynn Svan.
I think that the leaders of the pack now will realise that Jessie Diggins and Lynn Svan, in fact, they won't really be too worried. They're just focused on their race. Diggins 25, Svan 30, still that 5-point difference.
It's going to be a lonely race for Bergan. She certainly doesn't want to drop back and join Mer Lundgren. But closing the gap to those in front, I think, is going to be very, very tricky unless they start to play cat and mouse at the front of the field. Couple of K now from the halfway stage, and all the main contenders still there in that front group. 12 athletes really with a shout of winning this one, but when the 2 Swedes, Karlsson and Andersson, join forces, that is dangerous for everyone else out there. Niskanen in blue and white, just ahead of the 2 Germans in the dark suits. Therese Stadlober, is this going to be her day, Mike?
Yeah, I think she looks really easy, doesn't she, Stadlober? She hasn't had very much brutal pace changing, so a very level race for her, and looking so efficient on her skis.
Yeah, Diggins opening up a 10-metre gap over Lynn Svan, which is looking ominous. Diggins has recovered well, having not put in an effort to gain the bonus points on that last sprint.
did say it last weekend. For me, Lynn Svan was just functioning on her spirit, her mindset, her toughness. And I think today, maybe from now on in, Lynn Svan is going to have a very tough journey. We're not even halfway yet.
Still just over 20 seconds behind the leading group. Welcome back to Oslo, the women's Holmenkollen 50 well underway, 20 kilometres of 50 completed now, and a leading group of just about 12 with Diggins and Svan trying to hang on. They've recovered well on that downhill section. Heidi Beng in the background with the dark ponytail, still dangerous, do not rule her out. She keeps looking up and forward, which is great stuff. I've never seen her look, I don't think I've ever seen Heidi Beng look back in a race, but every now and again she glances up just to see where the leaders are, and that looks like a really big effort going in from Heidi Beng there, Mike.
It does. Last point of checking, she's only 21 seconds behind, so still very much in the race. Well, coming up towards half distance. And I do wonder how many of this lead pack will change their skis this time around. Will some of the braver ones leave it until next time around? And for me, I think that's a better option.
I think we'll see a few changes. There was quite a lot of slipping going on that last loop. Doesn't it make sense that you go half distance with each pair of skis? I know exactly what you were saying when you're saying save something good for the end. Yeah. Make sure your skis are running well into the finish. But if you're already out of touch because you lost too much on the fourth lap, then the sensible thing surely is to switch next time they come through, which will be in a couple of kilometres time.
Yes, and I do think that Ebba Andersson, I think she'll change her skis. Bib number 3, she was definitely slipping, and in fact maybe all of this lead group, if they see that one goes, maybe they'll all go. Jessie Diggins and Svan, they've made it back. Good downhill skills. I think Jessie Diggins will change her skis next time, which is in 3 kilometres time in the stadium.
Now, Heidi Beng was 21.6 last time we saw, and despite the increase in work rate, she has not managed to close, so it's now at 23.4. She's losing time by not being in the group, Mike. A group of 12 goes a whole lot quicker on the downhills than a single athlete.
And even psychologically, when you're following in the stride of an athlete in front of you, it's such an easier race for you, just metronome. You go stride for stride, almost in a trance. So it's a tough journey when you're on your own, same as Bergan. There's a little conversation. Lynn Svan, sorry, that's of course
it was Sundling and Karlsson having a chat. Are you going to speculate what that was about?
It looked to me like there was an irritation, but I think it will be ski change.
I think it will be about the ski changes.
And of course the Norwegians will understand what they're saying. But only one Norwegian actually at the front, so but she does look great, doesn't she? Astrid Øyre Slind, looking comfortable, looking so easy.
Yeah. Katarina Hennig on the left of your screen. Tired last week, but my goodness, she's putting in a really solid effort so far today. Svan and Diggins both slipping, both at the back of that group, which is a painful place to be. And Rosie Brennan's not given up on it quite yet, Mike.
Rosie Brennan, she'll never give up. The same as Heidi Bang. Here's Heidi Bang. I think she has a small issue with the grip under her skis. She will be desperate for a pit stop this time, coming up into the stadium.
Yeah, short, sharp strides from Heidi Bang, trying to stay with the pace being set by Jonas Sundling at the moment. And the Swedes have that advantage of being up the front in numbers. They got 4 in that lead group, 3 of them very closely packed. They can help each other out as they go along. But which is the stronger? I think most people would have their money on Karlsson. I think Ebba Andersson, you have to keep an eye on. Sundling as the world and the Olympic sprint champion. That would be some story if she could win the 50k here in Oslo. But don't forget that in the men's, the same individual has won the 50 and the sprint in the same championship.
Quite amazing, that range of potential in cross-country skiers, although Johannes Hösler-Krabo is a different kind of human. Of course, Petter Northug as well in his day.
What was that, 2015 in Falun where he achieved that? And that was probably the race of the century, wasn't it? When he was over a minute and a half behind the leaders. And I think they all thought he was out of it.
They did, and he maybe thought he was out of it, but that incredible mindset and sprint capacity, he managed to come back. It hasn't slowed down much, Patrick, but you just get a sense that prior to, the expected ski change, there's been a little bit of calm before the storm. Oh, this climb is so steep, it's horrible coming up this section. It only goes on for some 20 meters though, so that's a relief.
Yeah, but it's still a good opportunity to look at the ski form. And Svan and Diggins, definitely the tempo is that little bit slower. And Diggins, when the draw drops another centimetre, she is on full gas. But there is no one better at coping with 100% pain than Jess Diggins herself. Now, Heidi Bang's struggling a little bit on the steep uphill sections, Mike. The strides are shorter, and she's trying to make up for that by accelerating on the easier parts of the course. Is that form, or do you think it's skis?
I think it's skis now, and that's a very sugary part of the hill. I wonder if Ben took that drink stop there. She probably did.
Yeah,
it's a tricky section, isn't it?
It certainly is, and they've obviously all got the word about the warning, and they are doing their utmost to stay within the tracks.
And the bollards have changed as well, thankfully, just giving them a little bit more space there as well. Oh, that was close. Was that Sundling? Nearly falling backwards?
That would have pushed the pulse rate up a little bit.
Then another fast right-hander here. There's a whole lot of recovery in this section, but then you've got the climb around the hill here, the famous hill.
As they come towards the halfway point, everyone's speculating again. Karlsson having a chat to Sundling. Quite how you can ski this section and say anything, I don't know. I was always told when you're out training, if someone's pushing too hard, just keep them talking. Keep them talking.
Good psychology. Jessie Diggins she's wanting to get back up to the lead packs. I would say that's a clear indication of a ski change coming up for her.
It's as if Karlsson and Sundling are on a Sunday stroll. But I guess, Mike, is a 50k harder than a 10? Not really, because in the 10 you have to go 100% the whole way. In the 50k you can't afford to. Most marathon runners can talk while they're going along, but this is like a sort of WI meeting.
They've had a good 3 kilometre conversation now, so clearly What are they? I think they might be thinking, do we all just charge on if the rest go in? But they would want to drop further back. There's definitely a conversation there. Maybe they're thinking about carrying on.
Well, I wonder whether they're deciding 2 of us change, 1 doesn't, then we cover all the bases. Teamwork possibly going on by the Swedes.
Yep, and they're in numbers. They're the only nation now with 3 in this lead pack. 3 Swedes, 2 Germans, 1 Norwegian, 1 Austrian. Oh, 3 Finns, I apologise. 3 Finns are still up here. Well, I discounted Lynn Svan. She makes it 4 Swedes, but she's not in the conversation.
Yeah, and if 1 does stay out, who do you think it will be?
Oh, the gritty Sundling at the front there. There, drink stop.
Yeah, 1 quick drink, generally 20 mils of fluid, all you need. You don't need a massive amount, but you need it to be coming in regularly. Now, if Sundling goes in for the change, then will everyone else follow? She's certainly putting on a burst, which to me, Mike, would indicate that she is going to change the skis because she doesn't want to lose too much time.
Yep.
Yeah, here we go.
They all go.
Yeah.
Now, who's the fastest pit stopper? Maybe Sundling. Every single one of them. Maybe Heidi Vang will decide to just ski on by.
Yeah, it gets difficult with the poles, depending on what sort of straps you have. Sundling is away. Now, we're going to see exactly how it works with Jess Diggins. It's not easy. If you haven't been doing your stretching, it's a mighty difficult task. And it's much better to change at 25k than 33 when the legs are that little bit more tired. And Lynn Svan is the loser, I think, Mike. She has lost a lot of ground to Diggins, who was pretty sharp with the drills.
Oh, and that is significant when you've got this gap in front of you now for Lynn Svan. Jessie doesn't look comfortable at the moment. Heidi Vang has come in. So's Rosie Brennan.
Heidi Vang was at, just trying to pick out exactly where she was. She was at 33, now at 36, so she's lost 3 seconds. And Rosie Brennan possibly out of touch now at the halfway stage, just about 50 seconds behind. That's a big gap to close. But remember, when Karlsson won this race, she was over a minute off the lead of Therese Johaug. And then things changed dramatically over the last 10k.
It certainly did. Just looking, the biggest loser, if I can say that word, on the ski change for me, it's Lynn Svan. She's lost 8 seconds to Jessie Diggins in the pit stop.
Yeah, that could be absolutely crucial. And the next couple of kilometres really important for Svan. We'll get another split. We'll certainly get one at 27. Going to see if we can get one a little bit earlier. No, I'm not sure we can. I think we'll have to wait to 27.1 before we get the next accurate split.
And you know, all the while coming up this brutal climb, I love this camera shot, you just get a sense how difficult this climb is, and they've just gone past the halfway, so there's that mindsets will be thinking, okay, halfway, still got the same to do again, need to really dig deep now. Jessie Diggins has absolutely gained here. She's on the tail of the lead group. Lynn Svan is still chasing, and that's psychologically, that's a very difficult stage now for Lynn Svan in this race.
Yeah.
Has Jessie Diggins looked back? I think those skis are icing up for Jessie.
Yeah, so a slight loss of balance on that track change. And looking just that little bit slower on the downhill as well. That could be very awkward for her, and Lynn Svan, I think, has lost the will to live.
Oh, that's so sad. She's in a world of pain.
They're out of sight, and now it's just survival for her. The only bonus, Mike, is there's quite a big gap behind, and if Svan can keep a sort of respectable pace, she may just finish a couple of places down on Diggins. Pomakoski checking out the situation behind. And I think she'll be glad to see that Svana's gone.
She will. I'm just thinking Jessie Diggins will be absolutely feeding off this situation. When you feel that someone, your main rival, is beginning to suffer, it absolutely gives you some energy, some more energy.
I think that's just a mark of your personalities.
It's in us all. Well, you have to grab everything, don't you, when you're racing? Make things up that give you a little boost.
Yeah, and even when you fall, you have to pretend you lost nothing.
In this race once, my ski pole went through the fish netting, or the orange netting at the side of the track, and I dragged about 100 metres of fencing with me, nearly pulled my arm off, and it blocked the track for some. There weren't many behind me, but it was a tough point in this race.
Yeah, even I was sort of checking out the winners of the Holmenkollen 30, and the women's race didn't start. It was 1988 it was introduced, I think. Yeah. And or 1995, because Lazatina won in 95. But in all that time, Mike, up until the present day, only 5 athletes had won the race, and that was down to the domination of Marit Bjørgen, Therese Johaug, who won it 4 times, Lazatina, who won it 3 times, Shapalova, who won it 3 times, and of course Stefania Belmondo, who won it twice in 97 and 2002.
Incredible, and it does take a big status athlete, you know, Olympic medal winners, world champions, who can come onto this track and absolutely command it.
Yeah, and of course the records all started again last year with the first 50k rather than 30, and Sweden have 1 out of 1 so far. Sorry, Norway 1 out of 1, with Haga winning last year, but Sweden, I think, in a good position this year.
Was that an energy drink?
I think, well, there'll be plenty of energy in there. Now, I do remember, and you might remember the individual involved in the British team once. They brought in a nutritionist who gave all the energy levels of each sort of food, including drink. And one individual in the team was so shocked to find out that alcohol was second on the list in terms of the energy that he got, that he gave up being a teetotal.
I know what you're talking about. And it did work. It certainly helped relaxation. Well, as in that the seriousness had gone a little, and enjoying things a little more.
The work rate is there, but Diggins looking a little like she did in the classic races last year, Mike. That there's no relaxation, and this tends to happen when she's under stress. We've seen much better classic racing from her this year, but I just feel she's going back to the old style, and that is because the pace being set by the Swedes at the moment is punishing.
It is. They're looking great, aren't they? The Swedes at the front looking easy and relaxed.
Frida Karlsson setting the pace at the moment. Ebba Andersson just on the other side, wearing 3:13 is Jonas Sundling, who's going great. Is Niskanen in there? Yes, Niskanen is still there wearing 7. And Niskanen, the winner of the Distance World Cup last year.
Martin Thaler, we haven't really mentioned her much. She's keeping a very level, sensible pace there. She's at the back of the lead group here. Hasn't really got excited about the bonus points, just level and quite economical.
Yeah, and what about Stadlober, Mike? You know, we saw her a little at the start, but she likewise has tucked into this group and skiing really well at the moment, 9th place, and I cannot see Stadlober's name on the start sheet without thinking back to Pyeongchang.
Oh, that was an incredible situation, wasn't it? Where 2nd place, and then she took a wrong turning, went a long way in the wrong direction, and eventually finishing 9th, I think it was. I nearly cried for it.
Well, this is a significant gap. Krista Palmer-Koski there, just ahead of Jess Diggins. It looks as though those two are running out of gas as the pace picks up at the front. and Frida Karlsson has done a lot of damage over the last couple of K. The climb back up to the Frognersetten Arena. We've got another bonus point coming up at 27.9, and Karlsson in a very, very good position, but she looked relaxed at the start of the race, and that technique has not changed. Just under an hour and 20 on the clock. 3 Swedes leading the way. Slind for Norway in that leading group, but the only Norwegian there at the moment. Niskanen for Finland is there. Karl and Hennig of Germany still competing. Parmakoski dropping off the pace a little. And Jess Diggins.
She's struggling.
Yeah.
Oh!
Well, that wasn't the icing up, Mike. That was planting the pole in the middle of the skis, and that's another 5 seconds gone. And Jess Diggins has made life difficult for herself with that mistake.
And although it's a very small scenario, just losing a couple of seconds, the frustration accounts for a lot now. She's lost the contact that she had with Parmakoski, and just a little frustrated at the moment.
Slind again, just staying up the front, keeping a steady pace. I don't think she's hungry for too many bonus points. She wants the win, having finished second last year. But Karlsson looking very, very smooth as she crests the hill. Another 100 metres to go before the bonus points for the 4th time.
Not a huge pace change, Patrick. You know, we're not seeing complete and utter sprint to the line this time around, and that was expensive for Jessie Diggins and Svan earlier, and they really are, I think, paying the price for a massive change in pace earlier in this race.
So the Swedes sweeping up the bulk of the points. Niskanen 4, she showed a face in the early sprints. Number 18, Matin Talu, just starting to lose touch for the first time.
I'm just wondering, in the far distance, how far back is Lynn Svan now? Bib number 8, she's hurting, she's going to be in a world of pain.
Yeah, Lynn Svan was 53 seconds off the leaders, Mike. Last time they went through a split at 27.1. 800 metres later, I think she's going to be over a minute behind the leading group, and her chance of winning vanishing rapidly. Diggins could possibly be in the same boat.
Yes, and Svan does have some athletes who may well come up alongside her and pass her. Heidi Weng, Brennan, Bergan, Lundgren, although Lundgren further back. Beginner's error there, putting that ski, placing it just a little too far forward.
Now, in the long distance races in the past, Mike, they've had 2 ski changes. In some ways, it's a shame that that's not the case here today.
It certainly made it more exciting, didn't it? Will they, won't they? Is it worth losing 23 seconds changing? Is it not? There were so many different scenarios.
Yeah, what was the reason behind changing that? Do you know?
I think it was just to simplify and take the strategies away, make it more track racing. One ski change, as we saw today, everyone's doing it at the same time at half distance.
Yeah, and for the teams, well, there are a couple of factors for the teams. You know, for the smaller teams, getting 3 pairs of skis ready for each athlete is not easy, and also for the regulation, making sure there's no fluorocarbon waxes.
Yeah, many new factors. Surprised at Parmakoski. I had her certainly for a podium. Maybe she can still achieve that if some of the athletes ahead of her really begin to hit the wall, which some of them will later. But Parmakoski, with such a brilliant race last weekend, looking tired right now. Yeah,
as is Lynn Svan, who is now behind Heidi Weng. So 1 place gained by Heidi Weng, but the fight back hasn't really started. She's just over a minute behind.
And that Bergan coming up next, so Lynn Svan needs to keep an eye on the points, her position in the race compared to Jessie Diggins.
Yeah, great contrast in the 2 styles.
Yep.
Heidi Weng, more like the Clever Clock, and Lynn Svan gliding the first 50% of that climb without any problem at all. Definitely the more efficient of the 2.
I was thinking it's more like a glide stagger. She is really tired right now.
59.5 kilometres an hour. That's good going. That is good going on the downhill section, and Stadlober will be delighted that she's picked up the faster skis. Slind on the left of your picture, still looking very relaxed. Been really impressed with Slind. And Mike, the fact that she's done a lot of Loppet racing, do you put her as favourite to win this one?
Throughout the race, the efficiency that she's moving, she says that she tries to race a very economical race. I have her now. She hasn't got the killer sprint finish as some of those around her have, like of course Sundling and even Karlsson. Now she's got a much better sprint. So I think Slind would have to break away with 500 metres to go.
Yeah, 9 in this leading group. It's become a war of attrition, as is so often the case in the ultra-long distance races as they come back down into the stadium. Matin Tarlo is the athlete at the back of the group, but she seems to have been happy there and generally leaving 3 or 4 metres between herself and the next athlete. Just wondering whether that's a sign. That's the second time we've seen Slind shaking the quads, trying to get some life back into that vital muscle group. Carl looking awkward, but you can see just how much sugar snow there is on that corner. Have to be extra careful. Yes, Slind looking beautifully relaxed, Mike, wearing 11.
Yeah, throughout this whole race, just so much ease. You mentioned her double poling power earlier. She just brings that in a little further than most. Look, she's still double poling there, then breaks into classic. Just very comfortable throughout, and with 20 kilometres to go, that's what you want to feel like right now. Quite relaxed, as if it's a long distance event, a long distance session, training session.
Yeah, Parmakoski very emotional after that win in Lahti last weekend. When you put so much focus on one event, to raise your game again, psychologically more than anything else, is very, very difficult a week later. Here comes Karlsson back towards the front.
I think, Patrick, at this stage, all 9 of these athletes have passed every single test so far. Yep, tick that box. Technique's good, efficiency's there. None of them are looking stressed anymore, are they? 9 athletes, pretty much visually equally matched at the moment. But that will change.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that just means we're running on a slightly more consistent pace, and now that Diggins and Spahn are out of the equation, you know, the urgency when they come up to the bonus points is massively reduced, so they're just keeping a similar pace.
It felt that way, didn't it? Through those bonus points, there was no great excitement, no visual big dynamic pace change. I'm pretty settled at this pace.
Yeah, well, I guess the question is, Mike, would Diggins be in that lead group if she hadn't gone ballistic for the first 2 bonus sprints?
Do you know, I truly believe she would be, because they were, you know, 3 minutes of absolute maximum to get through the pack up to the front, and then she backed off, but it comes at a price.
Yeah, I think she should have had a word with Petter Northug, who's in the stadium, because he was the master, and he learned from his mistakes, I think, in many ways.
And maybe, you know, maybe it was worth it. Jessie Diggins picked up 25 points, Lynn Svan picked up 30. They won't pick up any more.
Victoria Karl, great news for Germany. Still within 8 seconds of the leaders, and it's on these tricky downhill sections, Mike, where you can find out exactly how the legs are feeling.
And you know, later, and maybe even now, the legs begin to start cramping up, and there's not much you can do, well, except keep the fluids coming in.
Yeah, and this is the first time we've had a little break at the front, and Frida Karlsson just going round the top of the hill and opening up a gap of some 20-25 metres. It's very, very early to be making a break, but it does look pretty, you know, it's not decisive as yet, but it's certainly, she's laid her cards on the table.
Yeah, it was a break by stealth. They were kind of caught sleeping, but now Astrid Irish-Slind realising this is serious, let's try and contain this break. They need to pick the pace up if they are going to contain this break.
Yeah, that is pretty significant, and I'm not sure that Slind is going to get any help from Sundling and Anderson.
It feels that way, doesn't it? It's as if they've allowed her to break away. Maybe that was the earlier conversation.
One more bonus point, I think I'm right in saying, still available. Actually, they get bonus points at 36 and 44, just 5k or so before the finish. So another 30 points up for grabs.
And you know, Karlsson in the overall standing third at the start of the day, she'll probably be looking to pick up these next 30 points.
Yeah, I'm just wondering in the men's race whether we'll see someone go for an early break to enable them to sweep up all the bonus points.
It's expensive though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I doubt it'll be Johannes Høsflot-Klæbo, although he does want to pick up many.
I think we need Holland to come out of retirement.
Yes, do the hard work at the front without a sprint at the end.
So the stragglers get to see the leaders, and they'll know exactly the margin between the front and the back, and Frida Karlsson has kept the pressure on. Well, this is a fantastic effort from her.
Yeah, this is a serious break. Well done. She's got good skis, and maybe she matched up the ski glide factor and thought, right, I need to break now.
6 of her 10 wins have come in classic. And of course, she won the overall Tour de Ski as well. And Frida Karlsson going well. Now, this is where we see if there is any teamwork. Sundling and Ebba Andersson side by side. Katarina Hennig, who is going to try and close that gap down? Has anyone got the strength to try and close the gap down? Or are they all saying, okay, it's about the minor places?
It's certainly easier working as a pack to try and hold this breakaway back or close it down, but it's quite significant now, 9 seconds.
Well, this is very interesting, and Mike, you know, I know they had a 50k last year, but that was freestyle. So for just about everyone in this pack, this is uncharted waters, as in they've raced classic for 30, they've not raced over that, so they are into unknown territory at the moment, and that makes this an even bolder move by Frida Karlsson.
Oh, it does, it really does. Yes, she's done it at 30 k's, but she had assistance from Anderson then when she started closing down that minute lead that Therese Johaug had. Brave.
Yeah, the skis noticeably slower, or the conditions noticeably slower than they were at the start of the race, and that was expected with the temperature getting that little bit warmer as the day goes on. And I wonder how many of the men who are racing tomorrow, Mike, are watching this, trying to work out what tactics they're going to employ for their battle.
Yes, I think they will. They will be watching this. Of course, the men's race, the shape of the race is always very different. We'll probably have 20 athletes together, 25 athletes together tomorrow at the same distance in the men's race. And you know, many have said that it's the 50-kilometre too much in terms of the women's field, because yeah, there's only 12 nations, 39 athletes, and 12 of them are Norwegian today. So I know it is going to be considered this summer should it go back to 30 kilometers.
Well, generous applause from the Norwegian crowd for Frida Karlsson. They know exactly what it takes to make a break with 20 kilometers still remaining. No ski changes to come. So it's all out effort from here, and a lot of double poling there from Karlsson, trying to get out of the stadium. The climbing starts all over again.
I find it hard to believe that this group of eight athletes are quite okay with Karlsson now on 16 seconds gap up to that front place, and no real teamwork happening here to try and close her down.
So 4 laps completed, and they still have 2 to go. Holmenkollen now at 41. It's going to be a tough comeback for Diggins if she's going to mount one. In 11th place at the moment, 58 seconds down off the leaders. Yeah, just wondering whether Svan is going to see Diggins has dropped off, Mike, and that might give her a little bit of a boost psychologically, and she might sense that she can close the gap.
Possibly, and Svan now is running alongside Heidi Veng and Rosie Brennan, so she's got company, and that's always an easier journey, isn't it? But 1 minute 40 behind. Jessie's 45 seconds behind. Actually, Jessie Diggins has lost a lot of time. She's 58 now at 32.2 kilometers.
Yeah. It's been pretty severe fall off the cliff for Diggins over the last 3 Ks or so, and that was on a relatively easy section, Mike. Really, since she took that little stumble, things have gone from bad to worse, but we'll see whether she can mount an attack back on this climb. We'll get an indication at the next time they go through the bonus points.
I did wonder if Jessie Diggins had a fall to have lost 15 seconds in a relatively short period of time, only 500-600 meters. I wonder if she did have a fall. But this is great news for Karlsson, isn't it? She tested the water. They didn't try to close her down quickly, and now she's putting a huge amount of effort in to just completely get rid of the chasing 8.
Now the cloud is definitely thinning, Mike. Wondering what sort of a difference should the sun come out, how that would affect the track for the last couple of laps.
Yes, that would be a big factor. I'm just trying to think. I think it would glaze a little. The tracks that they're skiing in now would glaze up, ice up a little. But I think the clister that they have on their skis is still a safe bet.
Karlsson still skiing well within herself despite the tempo. This is an unbelievable display of strength. It's a long way out, Mike, but she's not. I don't get the sense that she's over pushing it.
No, it doesn't feel that way. And her flow, her technical ability is just so easy. It's certainly a hard pace up this 3 kilometers from the stadium all the way up to top of Frognerseteren. It's hard, and she's coping really, really comfortably with it.
It's the race for second then.
Splashing up.
Number 7 is Kerttu Niskanen. Palmakoski still off the back, and that is an impressive lead. 60 metres ahead on a steep uphill like this. Come the downhill, I think Karlsson is going to be away and out of sight. and almost certainly going to pick up maximum bonus points next time through.
Did you see that? There was a cheeky little look over her right shoulder there, tried to pretend she wasn't really looking, but I think she's picking up some pretty good information.
Well, I think Karlsson proved herself back in 2020, didn't she, Mike, in the 30k when she chased down Therese Johaug. How good she is over the distance races.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, of all the athletes, she is the one who is skiing almost exactly the same as she did at the start of the race. Beautiful transition from the long sliding glide into the short climbing technique. And Ebba Andersson it is who's leading the rest of the field. Germany have got Karlsson and Hennig still tucked in there. Niskanen and Matintalu for Finland. Slind of Norway wearing 11. 13 at the back is Jonas Sundling, who's kept quiet for the last half an hour or so. And Stadlober, just to me, looks to be struggling a little. You can see that more of the work is coming out of the arms than the legs, and that's never a good sign.
No, and Stadlober had looked so smooth, so easy, but now it certainly feels energy level wise that the chasing pack of 8 are now thinking, okay, we really need to take this breakaway seriously and try and manage it better.
Well, this is going to be a fantastic battle for the podium places. Matintalu is the lowest placed athlete in the distance World Cup rankings, and she can give herself a pat on the back for staying with the pace. Just trying to catch up. Palmakoski at 41. She's the first athlete behind that chase group, Mike. And she's some 20 seconds ahead of Jess Diggins. Lynn Svan is at 2:03, so Lynn Svan has lost another minute on top of Jess Diggins. But the fact that she's only a couple of places behind might save her skin in the battle for the overall.
That's incredible, and you know, when you hit the wall, when you hit that absolute fatigue in this race, it's a tough journey, and she's still got one more lap to go of 8.2 kilometers after this one.
Now, with Slind and her experience of long-distance races, where would you expect to see her make the move? That double pole we've been talking about doesn't look quite as effective as it was earlier on. But, you know, it's the last lap, surely, where she should be in a class of her own.
I think so. I'm very much shading the strategy here from Karlsson. Yes, Karlsson did break before the stadium for the final time, and then she's maintaining this hard pressure all the way up to the high point of the course, and Slind maybe will have an eye on that same section next time.
Yeah, Karlsson is going to be making a little bit of history if she can win this one today, as the only athlete to have won the Holmenkollen 30 and the Holmenkollen 50.
I'm just thinking back to remember Seefeld, the World Championships 2019, when Karlsson controversially maybe was brought in. She was so young, just came off the back of the Junior World Championship successful, and they brought her in to test her out, and then that second position against the big names at the time, Johaug and Björgen, second over the 10 kilometer classic. She showed her strength back then, which is still absolutely there now. Yeah.
Now, where else in the world, Mike, will you get this sort of crowd for a World Cup event over 50k? Surely you cannot take this out of the World Cup programme.
I don't think you can. It's just a unique event. Just have a look at the spectators. It's you know, so steeped in history as well. 1888 when they started running the big distance events here on these tracks, or out in the forest further back. It's got a lot of history.
Yeah, and I'm still a believer in the 50k distance, simply because of the stories that unfold as it goes on. And should Karlsson find that she's pushed too early, then there may be a twist in the tail here in Oslo. It doesn't look like it at the moment, but there is still a long way to go as Frida Karlsson comes up and through the bonus points. Another 15 bonus points for her, and Victoria Karl has done quite a lot of leading over the last 20 minutes or so. Shared it with Ebba Andersson of Sweden. Now, who in this group has not made an appearance at the front? I don't think Stadlober has. Matintalu certainly hasn't been to the front, and Niskanen showed herself early on the first lap, but I don't think she's been up the front since then.
No, she hasn't. She's been missing in action in terms of trying to take that leadership role. Plenty Swedish fans.
Karlsson's fan club could well be.
Oh, they would love a victory.
Or a tiny fraction of it.
Yeah, Swedish victory on Norwegian snow is always a big day for the Swedes. It's a significant lead now, isn't it, for Karlsson at 34.6 seconds. I think that's barring Karlsson falling or hitting the wall, which I don't think she will. That's a significant lead at 34 seconds.
Holmenkollen, who's been in a bit of a world of pain for the last lap at least, if not two. Keeps her centre of gravity at the same level, Mike. Tall athlete, but there's minimal up and down movement on those steep uphills.
Yes, so smooth, just sliding the energy of the body forward without wasting energy with the head and shoulders coming up and down. This chasing pace is beginning to hurt some of the great eight, and I think we'll be seeing some drop off. Oh, that's
we still have
Karl.
3 Swedes in the top 10 positions. Jonas Sundling again leading the chase group. Henning is there. Slind certainly not looking as though she's going to lose pace with the podium battle. The virtual overall standings on your screen at the moment. Jess Diggins on 237. Looks as though she may push her lead back up to 170 points with just 4 races remaining. But remember, 3 of the last 4 races are in the classic style, and they're considerably shorter than today. We have got, after this race here in Oslo, we've got the sprint in Drammen, which is another great traditional race in the classic style. Then there's a sprint in Falun, that will be on the 15th of March, and then they go into the final weekend, the 16th, 17th. There's a 10-kilometre interval start classic, so that's a time trial event, effectively 10-kilometre classic, and then they finish the season off with a 20k freestyle mass start, and all impartial spectators and fans hoping that the World Cup Crystal Globe battle goes down to the very final race of the season. Matintalu starting to lose ground. Is that Victoria Karl? I think it may well be now at the back. She went out front about 5k ago. I think that was a bid to try and slow the pace down, but that little ruse has not worked.
No way.
Often the best thing to do is struggling a bit. Get out front and hope everyone respects the pace that you set.
A good, good strategy. It looks like Anderson is the athlete further back who's trying to make a difference.
43 seconds now between first and this chase group. Won't be long before they get to the 40-kilometre stage.
I've been loving her second half.
The first 10.5 kilometres taking just over half an hour, so I expect the last 10 will be around the 30-31 minute mark, and the pace Karlsson is setting certainly very, very impressive, and she's rounded the stadium, and will be delighted that there is absolutely no one else in sight. Here they come. Does she spare a glance? No. Just totally focused on the job she's got to do. Again, Slim just shaking the thighs. This is a tricky little corner. It's getting deeper and deeper and deeper as the race goes on. Everyone's safely round, but no one looking particularly relaxed. That is where Johannes Husvik-Kleber will certainly steal an advantage over the rest of the field in tomorrow's race.
Paulo as well in the top 9 with 49 seconds behind.
Little section of climbing coming now for Frida Karlsson, and she's got the tracks and the fans to herself now. Her margin of lead at 38.2. 49 seconds, and she now knows it. Karlsson's last win coming in the 20-kilometre classic in Canmore, and again that was a mass start. That was a fantastic race actually.
Ja, det får ju inte. Ja, det gör det. Ja,
Just over 10 kilometres to go for Frida Karlsson, 1:50. So they have certainly picked the pace up from early on. We were on schedule for 2:30. I think we're now on schedule for just over 2:20, maybe 2:22, somewhere around there. Well, they've done 39.1, so they do have another 3 minutes or so to go. So let's even it up at around 2:25, 2:26 for Frida Karlsson if she can keep this pace going. And a 49-second lead at 38.2. What she managed to do over the last 900 metres or so. Stadlober, 3 podiums in her career. She has never won a World Cup race. Doesn't look as though she's going to win today, but if she gets a podium, I think she'll be absolutely delighted with that. She's at the back of this group at the moment. Number 3 is Ebba Andersen, 26-year-old from PTO, and she's now got Astrid Øyre Slind of Norway, who was second last year, and looks as though the best she can do again this year is going to be second place. So Karlsson is now a minute clear, and with every kilometre she's opening up a gap of 10-15 seconds, so she is absolutely on fire at the moment.
It's incredible, Patrick. Karlsson just looks more technically smooth. She's attacking. It doesn't appear that she's lifted her pace massively, but she really is completely breaking away from the chasing pack.
Yeah, really tough short climb, and for the first time we have picked up on the breathing of Karlsson. She's just about edging into oxygen debt. That's where you hear the lungs just squeaking away, desperately trying to get enough oxygen into the body. Well done to Johanna Matintalu. She's made contact with this chase group. She was about 20 seconds behind not long ago. She's recovered well, and that puts 2 Finns in the chase group. Victoria Karl likewise has made contact on the downhill section, so we'll see whether she can hang on the next of the climbs. And looks to me as though Andersen is trying to stretch them out now. She certainly doesn't want to be involved in a last kilometre dash with this entire group. They come back through the stadium at just around 41.5 kilometres. And second by second, Karlsson is extending her lead and getting closer and closer to the 11th World Cup win of her career.
Still a long journey to go, Patrick. 10 kilometres, it's no mean feat when you've just accomplished 40 kilometres, but certainly looking very, very comfortable. Yes, Karlsson just so smooth, attacking, continuing to attack.
Big psychological step when you're into the last 10 kilometres, just like any interval session. When you get to that last one, it is not too bad. Sundling and Anderson still leading the chase pack. And that last climb certainly splitting up the pack as it, let's try and pick out who has dropped off the back. I think it might be Victoria Karl, and it might be Matin Talu, who worked so hard to get back in touch on the downhill. But again, the uphill is generally where the gaps open up, but it seems to be their weakness at the moment. So welcome back to Oslo, and just in time to see Frida Karlsson complete lap number 5, 1 to go, just over 8 kilometres remaining of the Oslo 50 here, and only the second time that a race of this distance has been included in the Women's World Cup, and of course the first time in classic style. Karlsson certainly put to the test and succeeding at the moment. This time she goes for 2 gulps. That's the first time she's done that today, and a sign that she realises that dehydration is certainly a danger at this level of the race. 8K still a long way. She's got just under half an hour of racing to go, but every time she comes through the stadium she gets to see exactly where she stands relative to the rest of the athletes. Out goes Karlsson, in come the rest, and they have made no gains whatsoever over the last 6 kilometres.
I'm just thinking, Patrick, the effort Karlsson has put out for this brilliant gap that she's managed to achieve, over a minute now. Is she going to pay the price in this last 8.2 kilometres?
To last year, where the top 3 athletes were separated by 0.5 of a second, and the top 6 were only 6 seconds apart. It could be that tight for second, third and fourth. This is the one drink you do not want to miss. Surely Victoria Karl is not going through again. Seems like she is. Hennig, her teammate, moves up into second place. I think that's Jonas Sundling. Is it Sundling just settling in third at the moment? Quite a few of the athletes are about to get lapped. Only 39 starters today. Just going down, we've got 19 athletes through 39k, and there is 6 minutes 42 seconds separating them. Sophia Laukley of USA 6:42 behind. What she would have given for this to be a freestyle race. Heidi Weng 3 minutes 47 off the pace. Lynn Spahn 3 minutes 31. Rosie Brennan her challenge never materialised. 3:24 behind. Jess Diggins on her own, 2:34 off the pace in 11th place, and only 2 places ahead of Lynn Svan. So minimal gains by Jess Diggins today. But at least she has stopped the rot in terms of the World Cup ranking gap coming down and down and down. Well, this is where the excitement is, and well done to Victoria Karl. Still there, and seems to be gaining well on the downhill sections, along with Matintalu. Those two have, it's either the capacity or the skis that are exactly the same. But next time we get to the high point at Frognersettan, and remember there is one more bonus section to go through, not going to see too much sprinting, I don't think, this time round. Bonus points at 44.5k. They've gone through 42 now, so 2.5k to that last bonus section. And again, Victoria Karl struggling on the uphill. Frida Karlsson showing absolutely no signs of weakening at the moment, and her last split point 1:11 clear. That was at 41.5, and this is Eva Andersson now going for broke in terms of trying to claim that second spot. Slind still in there, has done a lot of leading. Slind, Niskanen alongside her. I think you would favour her. I think Katarina Hennig may still be able to produce a surprise. No one's going to touch this lady. Frida Karlsson's been sensational today. 10 wins, 24 times she's been on the podium. Disappointed with the 6th place she got in Lahti last weekend in the 20-kilometre classic. This is a different game altogether. 3rd in the overall World Cup rankings. Doesn't matter what she does today, she will not catch number 1 and 2. Svan and Diggins far clear for that to happen. But what a boost. And what a way to go into the final stage of the season. The last 3 World Cup races taking place in Falun, where a World Championship venue. Yeah, looking forward to going back there again. And Andersson's break is clear to see, but it's certainly not decisive at this stage. Again, Karl and Matintalu back in touch. 13 is Jonas Sundling, who's now, I think, starting to struggle. We need to see the eyes, just quite how red and shiny the eyes are at this stage to get an indication. Yeah, Jonas Sundling struggling. And Victoria Karl comes back to the front of the group. So has she fully recovered? And Katarina Hennig will no doubt be glad to have her teammate alongside her. But Andersson still going very nicely. She's taken that lead over the chase group from 20 metres to something closer to 80. Still not quite decisive, but it looks good for Andersson. and it's looking good for a 1-2 for Sweden at the moment.
Well, Frida Karlsson just in an absolute flow, magical moment, can do no wrong, and it just appears as if she's pressing
solo run then
even harder.
Frida Karlsson. Is this going to go down as her most famous win? And I wonder whether she'll start to think she's got a career on the classic circuit or the Loppet circuit after this. And actually, interestingly, Frida Karlsson getting much better at sprinting this year. She does have the world's best sprinters to train with and to feed off, but noticeable how strong she's looked on the sprints, and generally surprised if she doesn't qualify for the knockout phases now. So Anderson still dangerously close to the hunting group behind her, who I think will be able to pick it up in the closing stages. Victoria Karl, I have to say, I thought she was out of this, but now she is the one setting the pace in this little group. Schlind is still there. Are they going to let one more get clear? Or are we going to have an epic sprint for the final? Karlsson already through 43.7. 2:04 on the clock, and under 20 minutes to go now in this race. And once they reach the high point, that's the bulk of the hard work done, but the last little loop to finish, still very tough indeed. And Jonas Sundling, who's looked so good all day, we saw her at the front quite a lot. She was vaguely involved in the sprints early on, which may be why she is paying the price now. There's that famous tongue of Karlsson's when she's on the limit, absolutely gasping, but it's hard to see a scenario where she doesn't wrap this one up. 6k to go, 6,000 meters at around 2:45 per kilometer. For the first time, Karlsson starting to look a little bit tired. 1:17. We get a bonus point here coming up. This is the 44.5 kilometer stage, and we will see whether Anderson has closed the gap to less than 1:17. So another 15 points. All very handy. Not, I would suggest, in making the chance of finishing in the top two of the overall World Cup standings realistic, but just opening up a decent gap, a big gap between herself and Victoria Karl and Rosie Brennan. So Anderson stays out front, centimetre by centimetre. She is pulling clear, and I still don't think she's quite safe. Hennig and Karl getting a little bit tied up on this soft climb. Niskanen there on the far side, Schlind in the middle of your picture. What a race this group are having. Stadlover still there for Austria. No one has dropped out over the last 10k or so, but they watch Anderson disappear over the rise of the hill, and it's Anderson heading for 12 points on the bonus trophy. And remember, the gap was at 1:17, so if it's come down, it's certainly not significant. And Anderson is going to have to pick the pace up far more than that. It's pretty much exactly the same. So she goes through. Another 10 points for Karl. Niskanen picked up a fair whack. Be interesting to see who's on top. It must be Karlsson who leads the bonus points, having broken away with 2 laps to go. There you go, 72. And Victoria Karl in second place, Anderson 51. And we might just get the virtual World Cup standings, but we can't have that until Diggins and Svan have been through that bonus points section, and that's not going to be for another minute or so. Well, she's killed this one off very, very effectively. All the athletes changing their skis after 3 laps, and Karlsson no doubt getting a decent pair to replace them, and now Ebba Andersson is starting to look really, really strong. I wonder whether she's had some news. Well, that's a really concerted effort from Andersson, and you have to applaud her, and that is decisive now, and just the difference in the pace going up that hill for the final time. Niskanen in slow motion. Sundling has recovered a little. Well, don't know where that second wind came from. I thought she was down and out, but good recovery from Sundling. Katarina Hennig still there. Victoria Karl goes from the back to the front to the back of that group. Her sort of psychological state, I suggest, just changing as the race goes on, and certainly could be involved in the sprint for third place come the end of the day. So Sundling is trying to make it a clean sweep for the Swedes today. Three and a half kilometers to go for Frida Karlsson, and she just ups the work rate, responding to the crowd here in Oslo. It has been an absolute masterclass from her. She did a lot of the leading early on, didn't really get involved in the sprint points in the early stages of the race that really put pay to Jess Diggins and Lynn Svan, but her technique has been impeccable throughout. Just one stage of about 2 or 3 minutes when the technique started to get a little bit rugged, but she's recovered, and knowing that she's got just 3.5 kilometers to go, it looks as though this one is safely in the bag. Sweden with Ebba Andersson in second place, and just having a look, Jonas Sundling had opened up a little bit of a gap, but I think she's been drawn back into that group. This is Ebba Andersson, 7 wins in her career. She won't get an 8th today, but she will push her total up to 39 podium finishes, and she's such an exciting athlete. Last win coming in the skiathlon in Trondheim, the pre-World Championship event, the World Champs in Trondheim next year. That is going to be an absolute Nordic spectacle, well worth a visit if you've got a little bit of time. So Andersson, what is she, 50 minutes clear of the chasers. Sundling has been clawed back into that group, and Andersson with 3.5 kilometers to go. Final climb up Gradisbakken. but she's got a fair bit of climbing to go before she gets to that stage. Two Germans. We've got two Finns in this group. Sweden, of course, with three athletes in a position to get on the podium, and only one Norwegian, Astrid Øyreslind, who was the runner-up last year in the Holmenkollen 50, the first time the women raced over the 50-kilometre distance. Every metre climbed is a metre of downhill to come before the finish. There is no hard snow to search out anymore, and the soft snow just sapping the energy. This is a 50 that will feel like a 60 and probably take the equivalent of a 70 out of the body. They are going to struggle to recover before the next World Cup on Tuesday, which takes place in Drammen. That's a sprinter's speciality. Maybe we'll see Karlsson sit that one out. Linsvan certainly won't. Just an update on the positions further back. We've only got, so far, only 9 athletes have gone through the 46.5 stage in the stadium. We've had a few withdrawals. Decodeur of France has pulled out. Comarella of Italy has pulled out as well. Heidi Weng currently in 14th, but 5 minutes 16 off the leaders. Linsvan at 4:24, Brennan at 4:19, Diggins at 3:37 has a chance of catching Parmakoski, which could be key in terms of the points. And it looks as if they are starting to come, are they? Is that an optical illusion? I think the camera actually foreshortening the distance between Ebba Andersson and the chasers behind. It's still at around 50 metres. It's still pretty healthy as far as Andersson is concerned as they go through 47.4, 2.6 to go. And another 8 minutes or so of racing for this group. Still looking as though it's going to be between 2:22 and 2:24 for the win for Karlsson. Stadlover makes a bid for a podium. Sundling, her form coming in waves. Matintalu and Karl back to the back of this group. This is when they really do need to be at the front of the chase group to make sure they're in the optimal position to challenge for the podiums. Andersson, this is a brave bid from her to break away from this group, but I think she might just have played her cards right. Is it going to be a Sweden 1-2? I think the 1-2-3 pretty much off the cards as 4 break away, and Sundling the roadblock in terms of Karl and Matintalu. Stadlover going along nicely. Good powerful double poling action. Niskanen, you can see the grimace on the face. I must say, Slind still looks very, very fresh, but she has got to start to make her move now. She really needs to be on the shoulder of Katarina Hennig. One minute 25, the latest split for Frida Karlsson. A minute 25, she's over 500 metres clear of the chasers. She will have the Holmenkollen Stadium to herself as she comes through. I'm really impressed that so many have turned out for this race today. I suspect we'll get similar numbers. Shame we didn't have yesterday's weather. Beautiful sunshine up on the hill, but the tracks were tricky, lots of ice around, and they were concerned about the potential falls, but we haven't seen too many. It's been warm and soft snow. And here she goes, the final climb, Gratisbacken as it's known, and this is where so many World Championship and World Cup races have been decided in the past. For Karlsson, it's just a question of getting to the top, and then the job is done. The last 600 metres here in Oslo, very, very easy compared to some, but they deserve it because the profile of this course, harder than any other that they've been on the World Cup so far this year. Less than a kilometre to go for Frida Karlsson. Ebba Andersson looking good, looking really good at this stage.
Det får vi finne ut av etter hvert. Det Andersen har I hvert fall...
And for the first time, Anderson has started to close the gap between herself and the race leader. Oh, I thought Hennig was going to take a tumble, and that is the battle for second. And Anderson is certainly not safe because Stadlober is coming strong. Hennig has gone with her. The Austrians and the Germans on their toes, moving to the edge of the seat in the stands just to get a look at this one because they could get a famous podium finish. No doubt about the winner, Frida Karlsson. A solo effort from her for the last 20k. Shades of Seefeld when Holland broke with 30k to go in the 50k and came through to win that one, but that was slightly more dramatic as Bolshunov closed it down bit by bit. Today Karlsson has just got stronger and stronger and given no one else a chance. Karlsson, who won the 20k Classic in Oberhof, she won another 20k Classic in Canmore, and she's going to win the 50k Classic here in Oslo. Anderson at 125, she's still only got 8 seconds over Stadlober and Hennig. Sundling, sensing the finish, starts to put in a little bit more of a drive. Slind of Norway will certainly be the best of the Norwegians, but we might see the Norwegians out of the top 5 here. And consider last year they got 1, 2, 5 and 6 and 7. Different story. It's going to be a long ski with the flag for Frida Karlsson. The job is done. Now she's just got to soak up the applause and celebrate what has been her finest show. She put on one of the races of the decade when she beat Therese Johaug back in 2020. Today, a very, very different scenario, but equally impressive, and she gets that winning time to 2:20.20, so negative splits pretty much all the way through for Frida Karlsson, and really looking forward to hearing what that journey was like. Despite being a minute clear, she still pushed to the limit. Last little climb for Ebba Andersson up over the Northern climb. Stadlober's on the charge. Hennig has gone with her. This is the battle for third at the moment. I think Andersson is just about safe. Had they started their charge 500 metres earlier, they might have closed it, but Andersson is safe, no doubt about that. With just 250 metres to go, one right-hand turn to negotiate. Stadlober, a long bid for that third place on the podium. That would be the first time we've seen her on the podium for a long, long time. Only 3 in her career, but this would be very, very special for the Austrian and certainly make up for the mishap that she had in the Olympics back in Pyeongchang in 2018, where she went the wrong way when the medal was waiting for her on the table. Well done to Andersson. She's done the last lap on her own, and the Swedes will be delighted with a 1-2. Now, will it be Stadlober? Will it be Hennig of Germany who's finishing strong? And it is Hennig who clinches it. The tactics were better. She rested in behind Stadlober. The German denying the Austrian. Niskanen a top 5, which is fantastic, but she's used to top positions in Classic. And one of the best results from Niskanen, considering all her successes come over the 10k distance. Sundling in 6, Slind of Norway, the best of the Norwegians in 7, and Matin Taluay, the day very much belonging to the Swedes, and Frida Karlsson nailing this one, 2:20.20. Nice time, nice race, brilliant performance by Frida Karlsson. Victoria Karl, in the end, I think would be disappointed with that.